Imagine this. It is the year 1225, and a small merchant ship from Spain pulls up its sails and anchors in Algiers, in northern Africa. But the ship's most important cargo is not olive oil or fruit. It is 2 Christian men who have offered themselves in exchange for other Christians who have been captured at sea by Muslim pirates. The men from the Spanish ship contact the Muslim rulers of the city, and the Muslims agree that they will give up the captives in exchange for the 2 men who have arrived. At another place in the city, the 2 captured crewmen peer out through the bars of a hot, dusty jail cell and see, approaching them, their jailers with several Spaniards. As the iron doors of the jail cell creak open, the captives stare in curiosity. In a rough voice, one of the jailers tells them that they can now go. The men learn that their liberty has come, and that 2 volunteers have generously given themselves in exchange for their lives. With gasps of incredulity and gratitude, the newly released sailors whisper thanks to God. Thus begins another drama in the life of what was a fledgling religious group whose purpose was to rescue Christians whose faith was in danger of being lost. This group, the Order of the Blessed Virgin Mary of Mercy, has its roots in Spain in the year 1218, when Peter Nolasco started a new religious order whose purpose would be to liberate Christians who had been kidnapped and held captive by the Muslims or Moors. They were to do this by means of prayer and raising money to ransom the captives. They even took a vow to give themselves up as hostages if all else failed in obtaining the release of their captive brothers and sisters. The Mercedarian historical record says that in the 13th century, captivity was one of the firm pillars supporting the economy of Muslim society. It also says the real risk of captivity for a Christian captive in the power of the Saracens was the danger of renouncing the true faith. The very circumstances of captivity were a real, ongoing, and serious temptation for Christians whose faith was not very strong. The lives of Christian captives in Moorish power were certainly not comfortable, because, in addition to their loss of freedom, they were subjected to all the hardships inherent to slavery: forced labor in construction and in the fields, the infernal torment of rowing and galleys, lack of food, diseases, dungeons, the conqueror's scorn, the mistreatment on purpose in order to obtain a greater ransom from them, and the tempting offers of the advantages they would have if they converted to Islam. King James II wrote to Pope Clement V in 1311 that in the kingdom of Granada, in the southernmost part of Spain, 500,000 renounced their Catholic faith and embraced the Mohammedan sect locally. Upon seeing that the number of captives was increasing, Peter and his friends became greatly disturbed. Peter sought an answer in intense prayer. The Mercedarian historical record states that on August 1st, 1218, a special intervention of Blessed Mary occurred in Peter Nolasco's life, an amazing Marian experience which illumined his mind and stirred up his will to transform his group of lay redeemers into a redemptive religious order, which, with the Church's approbation and the protection of the King of Aragon, would pursue the great work of mercy which had started. As the historical record continues, in the 13th century, the policy of commercial treaties, truces, and pacts between Christian and Muslim kingdoms had favorable repercussions on the rescue of captives. However, the redemptive mission in that century was not without serious risks both on land and sea due to the precariousness of these treaties and truces, to bands of uncontrolled bandits who attacked caravans, to pirates and privateers sailing where they wished and according to their plundering plans, to religious fanaticism, and due to the greed of the slaves' owners and of authorities. Today, there is still a need to ransom Christians from various forms of captivity. So the order, also known as the Order of Mercy, or Mercedarians, continues its work of helping people whose faith is in danger of being lost. Those Christians who are losing their faith today can be found in marginal neighborhoods, among drug addicts, and in hospitals. Another way to lose one's faith today, unfortunately, is by being caught in the snares of our modern secular world, which pays little heed to the things of God or of morality. Many people today have lost their faith because they never learned it well. That is why the Mercedarians put great emphasis today on teaching others the Catholic faith in all its purity and explaining the reasons for living as a Catholic. The Order of Mercy has received the approval and encouragements of popes down through the ages.
Hail Mary, full of grace.
In 1986, Blessed Pope John Paul II told the Order, "I would especially like to exhort you to maintain, to increase, and to spread the great devotion characteristic of your origins to the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, who has participated in her Son's redemptive work in such an exemplary way." Pope John Paul II also spoke to the Mercedarian Friars in 1998, saying that their founders offered new answers and new plans of evangelization to witness to God's love for the poorest. Concerning the Redeemers, the Pope said, "The generous concern they showed Christian prisoners, paying for their freedom and returning them to their home countries through the heroic generosity of so many brothers, should be remembered." The Pope continued, "Pedro Armengol Valenzuela gave fresh vigor to the order, opening up new horizons where it could fulfill its vocation as a champion of freedom and prophet of charity. From that time, your apostolates have been the preservation of the faith, assistance to those suffering the consequences of the new forms of slavery." The Holy Father added, "Your charism leads you to look attentively at the various forms of slavery present in human life today, with its moral and material poverty." Pope Benedict XVI has also spoken encouraging words. In a speech in the United States in 2008 to thousands of young people, including seminarians from the Order of Mercy, the Pope said that for us to walk the path of freedom, we must be open to the truth. He talked about the manipulation of truth in today's world that distorts our perception of reality and tarnishes our imagination and aspirations. He was saying that if we ignore the truth of the human person, then we give value to all things indiscriminately. This is relativism with all its dangers. The Order of Mercy is a religious congregation of friars throughout the world. In the United States, they can be found in New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Florida. The American House of Studies is in Philadelphia. Are you called to become a Mercedarian friar? Read about us at our website at www.orderofmercy.org.